Okay, welcome to the podcast. Today, I am joined by Courtney Nichols. She's a successful travel advisor, the founder of the Biz Huddle, and a dynamic leader in the travel industry. So, Courtney, you're known for your innovative approach to business. You have a knack for creating hyper curated luxury experiences and a passion for empowering travel advisors to scale and thrive, which I love because I have the same kind of passion inside of me. In this episode, we're going to dive into how to break through barriers, dream bigger, and build a sustainable, thriving business. We're also going to explore tools, strategies, and mindset shifts advisors need to grow with intention and purpose. Courtney's insights are sure to inspire and challenge you to think differently about your business. So I am super excited to chat with you today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited too.
This is the perfect conversation for a person like you. I feel like we are really aligned when it comes to our mental approach to business in general. And the fact that we both just happen to have travel businesses is like, okay, great. That's, the common denominator. But honestly, the idea that like we're about the business of our business, right? And
Yes.
what I want to kind of like shine a light on today is that it's okay. Number one, I think it's kind of like a permission thing. Like it's okay to really have this like desire to be successful and to not accept the status quo of sometimes what we hear about our industry or what we see in our industry or what other people say, quote unquote, success is, that we can dream bigger, that we can do more. And I think that you are the perfect person to have this conversation with.
Woo-hoo. All right, you done tooted my horn. Now I hope
Yes.
it's good.
Yes. I know it's going to be good. So let's start with this idea of actually dreaming bigger. Because,
Mhm.
like I said, I think we get stuck in the day to day of running a travel business and we don't stop to think about what's possible. And so, what do you think specifically when it comes to travel advisors holds us back from dreaming bigger, or why so many of us kind of get stuck in this like, this playing small is okay when like there's so much more out there for us?
Yeah. So I think coming into the industry, I didn't have a travel industry background at all. And
Yeah.
so for me, coming in and talking with other colleagues, I think part confidence,
Mhm.
and I think it's also the mindset of, well, this is how I've been taught, or this is how I was told, or when I got into the industry, I had a host agency and this is how they ran, and this is what I saw success look like, or this is what they told me. It's kind of like
Mhm.
when people price their service based on someone else's price, they're like, well, this is what such and such charge. So, like, I should be charging this. So, I think the same thing happens to advisors when they come in the industry. And it's kind of like you were saying earlier, the silo. You kind of get into this like, well, everybody is doing it this way. Everybody hires this copywriter. We go to these conference, like this kind of says that I'm on the in crowd and like I'm doing things the right way. So
Right.
to like move away from that, it's scary. It's also like, does this work? No one's doing this. Why? It's a well-oiled machine. Obviously, people have had success doing it this way. So if I go and break away from that, like, what does that look like? No one's doing it. Like all eyes on me. I'm not even sure I haven't figured out. So
Right.
I think it's that mindset of like, we come into the business. Most of us, this isn't our first career. This is something that we've left something else to start this. And so we have the dream and then we get in there and then it's kind of like, oh, so this is it. Like, and then we put our head down and get into the day to day. And then when we do talk to someone, they're kind of like doing the same thing, head down day to day. And so like we never look up or look out or
Mhm.
branch beyond kind of just our industry and the silo that we're in. I think that's the
Exactly.
biggest thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you're really right about that. And the thing about it is, I think it's very hard, or I haven't seen it articulated enough that people start with like their big vision. Like at the foundation, you actually know what your goals are, what your vision is, not just in the here and now or for the next 12 months, but like truly, what are you after? Like, why did you start a business? Why did you decide to become an entrepreneur? Like, what is that motivating force? Like, yes, we can have the nice feel good answer. I love helping people myself. I really do. I love
Yeah.
travel. I feel like it's transformative. All of that is true. But when I started to stop and think about like the bigger reason why I'm doing this and the thing that like really is going to give me a sense of fulfillment and purpose and make me feel successful, which there is not one answer to this, I had to stop and think like, okay, here's what I'm after actually. Like, here's what really is driving me to be an entrepreneur. Now, how do I get going and accomplish that? You know?
Yeah. So what you said, I like that because everybody says like, "Oh, I started a business. I want to help people," or some people say I wanted to travel, and I never said that. I came in. I have a fundraising background, so
Yeah.
like major gift fundraising, ask really wealthy people for a lot of money. So like, I'm dreaming with their dreams, kind of, because I'm able to see that money exists and how people are living their lives and being around people where their mindset, like, they don't even little things that bother me are like fear of, they have no sense of, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's just not in their wheelhouse. It's kind of like, oh, I'm gonna start a business tomorrow. Oh, I'm gonna start my second business tomorrow. Like, why not? I'm like, what? You're starting your second one. Like, what about the first? Like they have no. It's one of the, it's kind of like a child. They're innocent. They'll tell you anything. My 4-year-old niece, like, don't have a bad day and look a mess because she's gonna be like, TT, you look terrible. Basically, but like they're innocent. They don't know any better. So the same thing in our business. I feel like that's what happened. So basically, to go back to what you were saying, the mindset when I entered the business and what I saw around me of what was flowing, I said, I want to live this life. I want to make a lot. Like, this is the thing people are scared of saying, I want to make a lot of money because I think there's some negative connotations like, oh, you're rich or you're greedy or like you're trying to con people. If you're trying to make a lot of money, like you're not in service. But to me, it's the opposite. You're not in service if you're not making money. How are you helping people broke?
Yeah.
Like, to
And how
me,
are you
that
helping
doesn't make sense.
yourself and your family?
Correct. And my thing is, how many trips are you going to plan when you're out of business? You can't plan trips when you're not making, like it doesn't make sense. I believe that if you want to give back or if you want to live a life of service, you have to make money. Like people, the seats at the table, or if you're creating your own seat, like that's part of it. So I got into the business literally leaving my job, not to say, oh, I love travel or I want to plan trips or I want to help people. It's like, shoot, there's some money in this thing. Like, let me see if I can flip the 0 to the X and like, oh, and my flexibility. So flexibility also was a big part. My husband's a college basketball coach. So like we moved 8 times in 16 years. So I was like, I done went to school, got 2 degrees. I know I'm cute, but I can't just be sitting in the house. Like I'm like, what can I do from anywhere in the world? And I can make money and something that I'm good at. So I'm like, this seems like this is the move right here. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can do this. And so I went into it like, I want to make a lot of money. How do I do that?
Yeah. Yeah. And that is number one, a gift because you had that on the forefront. And so you approached the way you looked at your travel business and the business that you were building with that in mind, with that end goal in mind. And so many advisors, I feel like, A, they don't have that mindset, but
Right.
B, our industry kind of doesn't really show how that's possible in a lot of ways, right? And so, number one, you have this, we do have a low barrier to entry, meaning that like it doesn't take much of anything to say, hi, I'm a travel advisor. Like you just show up one day, make a website, you're in business. And then you look at statistics that say, well, the median income for a travel advisor, I don't know what it is, but it's something like $42,000, $48,000, something like I don't know. I don't know if I had that belief that that was my ceiling or that was what I was striving for, that would make sense for me.
Correct.
That doesn't make sense. I can't live where I live or do much with that. And so I think that there's this mentality of, well, here's what the average is. Here's what people around me are doing.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't thought bigger than that. And so what I'm hoping is that like we're having this conversation to say like, hey, how can we think more expansively about our business? How can we dream in a way that like we start to believe for ourselves, this is possible? Well, it starts from first just actually believing it, like having that belief. And then we got to do some
Right.
work following that to be like, okay, now how is it going to be possible? Like, what's it going to take?
What's gonna take? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of like the flip side of why not, or
Mhm.
like I was watching a podcast with Mel Robbins the other day, and she was asking like, what is the most important part of Nike's slogan? Just do it. And people were like, the do. And she was like, I don't think so. And she said, it's the just, because just
Mhm.
actually establishes the humanity of like, there's tons of things going on. You have several excuses you can make. We know you have kids. We know your house just got caught on fire. We know the dog died. We know your husband just left. It's the but just do it. So it's kind of like that same mentality. Like you have to make up in your mind that you're going to do it anyways. It's kind of like there used to be that whole girl boss, like do it scared, do it anyways. That whole thing. So like in your mind, you have to say, okay, this is what I want. And basically, you're not going to stop till you get it. So it's kind of like forgetting everything someone told you and or what you know. And you're not taking that in as your story. That's someone else's story. So what? I've had friends that have gotten out the industry and become coaches because they said, oh, there's no money in travel. Like I can go and be a coach and I can make more money. That's their story. They didn't make money in their travel business. That has nothing to do with me and my story and me making money in my travel business. And so I believe, like, again, it goes back to the mindset and the belief that you were saying. But also, I think we have kind of that due diligence. It's like too much is given, much is owed in the industry to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because what we're hearing, I know I told you before, like this 1 million in sales. So in my mind, if people are saying like that's the ceiling, like, oh my gosh, if you're a $1 million advisor, like you've hit all the marks and you're an award winner and you're doing all of this, but they really don't break that down of what that really means. Like
Right.
1 million in sales has nothing to do with your revenue, your profit. Like it's not talking about your expenses, overhead. Like if you have a host, what you pay them, like what are all your systems and things you have in place. Like there are people that are $1 million sellers that are only making 30,000 or 50,000. So to also go to like the statistics, because I was talking to Steph Lee and I almost had a panic attack because there was this travel industry weekly report that said 40% of travel advisors make less than 25,000. I'm like, oh my gosh, you can go to Amazon and get benefits and make 25,000. So I'm like, let's break this down. What specifically? Who is this that they're talking about? So I kind of like took a deep breath when she said that's in your first 3 years, which still kind of, because in my first 3 years, like if that's all I made, I wouldn't continue. Like I'm like, oh, this is terrible. So then I had her pull a report for like that 6 to 10 years. So like that would be someone like myself, 6 to 10 years. Like you kind of have your book of business. You think you have, you don't know everything, but you think you're like in your group. You might be hiring. And that median, that income was 60,000. So like I know you had said 40, a little higher, but like not six figures. And again, I don't want to knock anybody who's like not making six figures, but like when our parents were like in their career to make six figures, they were doing it. We making six, like us now, this generation, like we can't not make six. Like you're not living, even if you don't live in California. I live in Virginia, and so like, and not DC. But like, what I'm saying is like that should just be the starting point. That should be the starting point of the conversation of like a million plus, or not even. Let's not talk about sales. Let's talk about profit. Let's talk about revenue, because even then, what I'm seeing is there are advisors who are chasing that $1 million and they're burning out. They're burnt out. So to me, even if you hit that million, and let's just say that you're doing all the things and you hit that six figures and above, you're burnt out. And so to me, is that sustainable? So how do we run profitable and sustainable businesses? Like it's the and thing.
And it definitely, yeah, I 100% agree with you, because again, back to kind of like why we started, there is that element of like freedom and that the flexibility and all of those types of things, which is part of the entrepreneurship journey. And of course, there's going to be the part of our journey that is about the grind and the hustle and whatever, but that is not the continuous, like sustainable journey that we're trying to be on. We're not trying to hustle and grind forever and ever till death do we go.
Right.
So there has to be a place where this business starts to kind of make sense. And so that is also part of the thing that we have to understand. And to your point, listen, there's a lot of people listening to this podcast at every point in their journey, and no part of your dream is right or wrong. It has to be your own. So when you decide, hey, here's what success looks like to me, that is it. That is your version of success. What you're hearing us say is that it is okay for that to be largely driven by, financial success, by actually earning a income that like makes you excited. And it can be done in this industry as a travel advisor. We're trying to kind of, I think, paint the picture of, yes, this is possible. because I think that that is important for a lot of people to understand. And the second thing I just want to clarify is that you might be like sitting there or listening to this and be like, I am so far away from that. I am the one who's doing the $25,000 a year being like, what the heck do I need to go apply at Starbucks? No, you need to have a plan and a vision and then get to work on making it come to life. So hopefully what this does for you, if where you're at is not where you want to be, and you also are not clear on how you get to where you want to be, hopefully my goal is that this conversation is encouraging and inspiring that yes, it's possible, and no, you're not crazy for wanting it.
Correct. I'm glad you clarified that, because I get on there and people like, Courtney, you need to dial it back. You're like on 10 and like we're on 3. Like you're taking us too far. But this is the one thing I will say that ties it in to wherever someone's at is the biggest thing you can do for yourself is invest in education, tools, networks that aligns with the growth you're looking for. My thing is I've always told people, if I want to be the best barber, then I'm going to go hang out in the barbershops. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going to be the best travel, like you want to be around a group of successful people, whatever that looks like. If success looks like a certain way and you see someone or a group of people that, align with your version of that, that's who you need to spend time with. Like literally your network is your net worth. And then if you're like, well, I don't know anybody, I don't have any, I have a lot of friends who like 9 to 5ers. They're not like business owners. They are still trying to figure out what I'm doing behind the computer. And like, they know there's some trips happening, but they just don't understand. And maybe you have people like that in your life, but find those people. That's where the masterminds, that's where, the business organizations, that's where the small groups in your city, town, state, whatever, that there are people and places and things out there for you to grow. So like, that's the next thing. It's kind of like, let's not wait for the travel industry or your host agency or your consortia or whoever to supply you with the tools you need to be successful. You have to take ownership with that.
Yeah.
And then make it happen for yourself.
100%. 100%. The community aspect is so important. And I realize it, the more I grow, the more important it becomes. Like I realize, like I said, I can grind it out to a certain level. I feel like I have enough smarts. I have enough understanding of like how to just make things work to a certain level. And then I'm like, I need to get in a room with some smarter people than me. I need to learn from some other people. I need to hear what they're doing, what they're thinking, what they're strategizing, all of those things. And that's going to help me be better. So I think this community aspect is so important. And I feel like, or let me know that when you started kind of like dreaming of something like the Biz Huddle, this is your kind of way of bringing people together who are in that same realm where like, hey, this kind of collaboration is going to help us all think outside the box and dream bigger. So kind of give me an idea of number one, what you were thinking when you had this idea and then like how it came to life.
Yeah. So literally it was looking at those statistics and I'm like, okay, we got to do something. I'm like, and I was like, oh, I guess that's me. Right. And so I got excited, but then I was like, oh shoot, like, how am I going to do this? What does this look like? But it was really about like, again, entrepreneurship. That I believe that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is knowledge. So and then there's two parts of that, because one part is knowledge, because that's why we have podcasts like this. That's why we have your community. There's books, there's all this inspiration, there are things you can do. But then the second part is leveraging what you know and implementing the execution. Because again, going back to this Mel Robbins podcast, she said information is cheap. Like it is cheap. Like we can YouTube. Literally, I could put in Chat GPT today, I want to be a successful traveler that makes such and such money. What do I need to do? And it'll literally spit out what I should do day to day.
Plan.
That's the easy thing. Like people know what they need to do to lose weight, but they don't do it. You know what I mean? Like obviously there's a disconnect between what you know and what you're going to do. So I was like, okay, yes, I love our cause. So I'm part of Masters in Travel and I love our cause. But then it's kind of like, we need more than just one cause. Because I'm like, let's go deeper. Like, let's go into these things. But everybody has lives. Everybody has time. Like everybody's doing their part. So I'm like, we got to get everybody in the room and break this down and go deeper. But then put a second layer of let's bring experts outside of our industry.
Yeah.
in fields of marketing, operations. It's like a mini MBA of like, okay, the only reason they know it's travel related is because the audience is us. But like literally anybody could go to this and apply it to their business. I
Yeah.
felt like that was the missing link, or it was the knowledge. And then let's implement on site, because they say 70% of conferences people go to, they don't implement. Because life, you have the dog, the kids, like you have this big, I have like 5 notebooks full of ideas and things that I just looked at the other day, because it's the new year. So you're trying to
Yeah.
clean out and declutter. And I'm like, what was I thinking? Or like, oh, I still like this. Maybe I'll tag it on to my 100 other things I'm doing this year that then I'll go back to next year. So like I was like, we need to bring people outside our industry, because I think it's also like in my marriage, I'll tell my husband to do something 10 times and he won't listen. And then someone outside will tell him the same thing and they'll be like, oh yeah, babe, da 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 da. And I'm like,
Wait a second.
what? I've been telling you that for 3 months. So I'm like, I think also with consortium host agent, like they bring the same speakers. We kind of get used to hearing their voices, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, we know. And then the travel trends and da da da. But it's not really like moving the needle on our business. So I'm like, okay, we've got to bring some heavy hitters outside of the industry, experts in their field, and literally, we don't want high level overview. So I'm like, okay, if we're talking marketing, I don't want you to just be like, yeah, your website messaging is off, or maybe you should change this button and color. Like,
No. Yeah.
no, we're done. And not saying that some of y'all might need that. You know what I mean? Like to go back. You're like, no, I'm actually there, Courtney. But what I'm saying is like, can we it's an onion.
Yeah.
Take the layers off.
Yeah.
120 minutes, spend 90 minutes. Like, let's workshop this thing.
Yeah.
Pull up your laptops and do the work and get some knowledge. And like, oh, I want you to leave with a strategy. So then you can't say like, man, this was so much fun. I enjoyed it. Like, it was inspiring. But then like, I got home and I was like, hold on, I'm lost. Like, I need my people. You know what I mean? I mean, I wanted it to be more. So that's kind of like where the business huddle kind of took off. Is like, oh, these statistics are like ridiculous. And I'm like, hold on, we have message chart. We have we have all this support. Like, okay, how can we take that and then add something to it, to be like, okay, get everybody together and really go deeper than what we already are, and not really focus on the travel stuff, like the destination, all that, like, the easy part. But we don't know how to run businesses. Like, so I mean, that's
that
where
is the thing that I think, because like I said at the beginning, this low barrier to entry is that there's so many of us. I mean, we didn't go to school. We went to school for something completely different. And our first career, second career, whatever, had nothing to do with this. And so this idea of running a business is so paramount to the success that we see. And it is, in my opinion, so much more important than the travel knowledge, which is also obviously, yes, don't be dumb about the thing that you're selling. Learn your product, make relationships, do all of that. But the thing that is truly going to move the needle is the business acumen. And this is not like, here's what I already know because I did get, I don't know what you would even study actually, but like there's that knowledge that I think is missing. And you're right. It's like in the conferences that we go to, in the host agency trainings that we might have available to us, even in the podcast we listen to, it is this information high level that sounds good. I always think it sounds good. I always get like the inspiration, like puts me somewhere in a lot of these places. And then it is the actual implementation that is not carried through. That's part of it. And I think the second part of it, which is like the gathering of similar like-minded people, is like if you ever meet me in real life at like a lunch, a conference, whatever, I'm talking to people about business. I will hijack the conversation that has, I don't know, if I know we are in a similar field doing like wanting similar things, I want to talk about business. I'm going to be like, okay, great. Like, who are you hiring? Why? What are you going to tell me? What do you think the ROI is on that? Have you tried this? And I'm just like, this is what lights me up. So I get excited about the idea of people wanting the same thing, desiring similar outcomes, and being in the same room together, because I feel like that's like where the unexpected magic can happen.
Definitely. And you're like speaking my language. I'm like having butterflies. It's just like that one time you mentioned on Mess to Travel about like how you think. And I'm like, this is my girl, where she's being like, obviously, just a quick little synopsis, everybody. Like, we were talking about goals and obviously, again, key metrics. And Brianna was talking about how like she breaks down and knows like, okay, this is her big goal, and then she breaks it down in smaller goals. And Courtney, that's literally what I do. I'm insane. I
Mhm.
know it. So obviously, I know that Brianna is a little crazy too, because like my brain like speaks like that. I know that if I want to make this much, or like even when I was a fundraiser of like sales, okay, I need to raise 2 million, so I'm going to break it up. Okay, quarterly, that means I need to hit this mark, 500. Okay, that means within that 500,000, I need to have this many calls. And as far as this many calls, I need to schedule this many meetings. I have a close rate of this, so that means I can get 4. You know, like
It's
that's a lot of will. Yeah, but
all the
those are the things you can be doing in your business now. Of like, oh, I want to make this. Okay. And I see that the average spend is that, and like all these measures, all this stuff plays a part. Like it's part art, part science, but I believe that like that's where we're not talking about as much.
We're
You know,
not
we're
talking
not
about it.
getting into the nitty gritty of those like data points.
100%. It's so funny because even when she mentioned earlier about the like selling a million, which I could care less about. I don't care if you sell a million. I don't care if I sell a million. What I care about is at the end of the day, when I'm filling out my tax returns on April 15th, what I get to say I made. And so even now, when my goals are focused on, I just joined this year like a high level mastermind, and I was talking to this business coach, and she's just like, we're trying to like, I'm trying to really articulate what my goals are. And it really was about, here's how much I want to make. Now let
Right.
me start working backwards. Now, if that takes me to like $5 million sold, that's fine. But I
Right.
could care less what I sell for somebody else. If at the end of the day, my focus becomes on this is how much travel I want to sell, but then I have all these expenses and all this payroll because now I have 10 people on my team and all this, whatever. And I just make the same amount or similar, not interested, not interested. So
Mm-hmm.
the idea that you're focusing on something that like truly is not about how you win is the wrong focus in my opinion, unless I don't know, like you're just really like,
Trying to get awards.
yeah,
Trying
like you want to
trying
stand on
to,
the stage for,
yeah.
stars or
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
or
like,
season or whoever gives
yeah.
awards. I don't know who gives awards. I never get
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I'm
But
like,
and to that point, where I'm at now as well is when I think about what is going to like truly be my next big goal and revenue wise, what I'm looking for is somebody who's done that or has an
mhm.
idea of how they're going to do that and be like, let's sit down and chat. Like, what does your business look like? What does your, like, let me kind of get under the hood of that. And I can only do that if we're freaking in the same room. I can't randomly call some stranger up and be like, hey, are you making 250,000?
Right.
You
Tell me
tell me.
your numbers. How did you do it? Like, let's go through your thing. They're gonna like, who is it? Like
And it's
nuts,
important to
crazy.
have like the relationships available so that we can ask those questions to appropriate people. Because I'll tell you how much I pay myself and I'll tell you how my business looks so that you can see, hey, this is one way to do it because there's not one road to Rome. We can
Right.
all make 6 figures doing it a lot of different ways. But I'm past being satisfied with like bringing home 6 figures. And now I want to talk to people who are either at where I'm going or on the same road.
Or
And we can kind of like share ideas and figure out how we're all going to get there. That's what I'm interested
I'm on board. Me too. I'm like, yes, preach it to the choir. Like, yes, that's what I want that growth that like, and I know I can't do that by myself, which is again why I wanted to bring it together and why I was looking for people outside of our industry that they built 7-figure businesses. They know like at the end of the day, business is business is business. So like the things that they learned, we can take and apply it to our business. That's one of the reasons why I scaled back my destination wedding side and got kind of out of the day-to-day operations and focused on building out my retainer model because for me and my goals, I mean, it's scalable.
in. Mhm.
I'm working smarter. I'm making more, but taking on less clients. Like, oh my gosh, people are going to pay you like a retainer cord. Like, I get that all the time. Like, what? Like, you don't take any one-off trips anymore? I was like, not at all. No way. Like,
Yeah.
won't do it.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make sense anymore for
Yeah.
where I want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, for lack of a better word, ballsy because that's not the traditional like way you learn how to be a travel advisor, right?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
it's not like my business. model like really has less to do with commissions than anything. And it's not like the traditional way either. But I was just kind of like, well, who says you could decide how much I make? Like, I didn't
Right.
like
Yeah.
that. So I decided as long as I'm providing value and people are willing to pay for it, that can be my business model. And so there's so much to be said for thinking differently and outside of the box and letting there not be like just this one way to do things, especially in our industry. There's so many different ways to be successful. And we need to kind of like embrace something different when we want something different, I think.
I mean, yeah, drop the mic. We're done, right? No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, you said everything. Like, all of this is like, woo, yes. I'm hoping everybody's like, yes,
I
give me
hope so
more.
too. I
Yeah.
hope so too. So a lot of this, I think you said this as well. It comes down to kind of like what we invest in, right? So there's
Mm-hmm.
coaching, there's systems, there's team members, there's so many things. And from your perspective, like how do business owners decide what's worth it, when to invest, what's going to provide the biggest return on investment? Like, how do you go through that process? I want to give somebody like some tangible ways because,
Yeah.
it's not about like throwing money at all the things and like, let's
No.
just like see what sticks to the wall. But it is about like intentionality and kind of like making smart decisions at the right time, I think.
Yes. So for me, when I got in the industry, I started off with a business coach. She actually is the CEO of Film Professionals. They rebranded to Film City. She's out of
Mm.
Miami. So like I came in with a business coach, but the business coach I came in with was not the same business coach that I kept. There's different
Mhm.
levels. So my thing is I'm not saying you go out here, get you this $25,000 business coach. Like start where you are because that $25,000 business coach, right now you need that 500 or 1,000 because if you're entering into the business and or you're just starting what they're going to teach you, you're not ready for it. So I
Right.
believe first the step is to figuring out what it is you want, like evaluate what your goals are and get help get help to I was like, get help to help you. That doesn't make sense. So basically you're going to ask for help reaching those goals. And for me, there's two ways because I'm not a DIY or course girly. I cannot stand the course because this is the thing. How many times have people bought these courses? They're like $100, 200, like, and it sits there and you might look at it, you don't implement. I'm like, baby, I need the stuff. I'm an action taker. So my thing is if I have one-on-one time with someone and we get off this call, like I'm gonna do my homework. Like I'm that person that's like, okay, here's this. I want you to look at it, audit. So like you have to know who you are. I'm an action taker. So like I'm going to pay a little more to get that one-on-one
Mhm.
instead of like, here's your lower tier course or, you know, DIY videos that walk you through it. Some people are just good with the videos and course and they're like, oh, I'll do it. Then there's like that group setting where like, maybe you're not ready for the one-on-one. Obviously it costs a little more, but like you can't do the DIY either. So you're at least in a group. And the one thing I will say about group is it's just like with Master Travel, like I might have signed up for the person, that coach, but really I get benefit from talking to Brianna and all this because now
Mhm.
they're struggling with things I am too, or I might be afraid to share or that they come out and they're answering a lot of the questions I already have. So you kind of get a twofold dynamic of like, oh, the people that are in your little cohort or whatever, as well as that coach. But going back to like, how do I invest? You literally said it. I'm only hiring people that I know can get me to where I want to go, meaning they have to have done it before. I don't
Mhm.
hire people that just because they say they're a coach and they're good at marketing, I'm going to hire them. Like, what is the need? What is it that I'm really looking for and have they done it? If
Mhm.
they haven't done it, then what are we talking about? Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not doing that. So like I'm very choosy about coaches and mastermind, especially because that's a low barrier entry too, to where just like our industry, someone could just I could tell you tomorrow I'm a coach, and then I'm like, here's my fee, $10,000. Come here and find strategic. And you're like, what? Which people are paying. It's crazy in that industry. So like I've been lucky to have really good coaches and like been a part of masterminds and retreats, but I also kind of ask around. I follow people for a while. So like I'm that silent buyer that you don't know exists that I
Right.
might like your Facebook or I might be on your newsletter wheel, but you don't know. And it's gonna take me maybe a year, maybe six. It depends on what you have. Like, and I always start maybe with a mid-tier. I don't go on a lot of coaches, they have different packages. I might not start with their top level, but like, okay, if she gives me a little this or he gives me a little that, then I know if this thing rocked my world, when I sign up for that, this thing's going to change the game. So I'm that type of buyer. I'm not sure how the audience operates. If they're like, man, I have a friend that anytime something on Instagram comes around, she's like, Courtney, this is going to change the game. Like, I'm getting in this. I promise you, I'm going to get all these leads. They do this, and that. I'm like, oh gosh, here you go again. So like, I try not to just impulsively. I kind of build this into my budget of like, hey, I want to be a part of this mastermind, or I want to spend more on professional, personal development in that bucket. And so within that bucket, what does that look like? I believe the first thing anybody should invest in is mindset. Like, because it doesn't matter if you have the strategy. My thing is, if your mindset, like, we sometimes buy with our pockets, not our clients' pockets. On top of that, like, there's so many stories you don't even know that you've been told. This inner child, like, I've done a lot of work with visualizations, meditation, like, money don't grow on trees, which for them, it makes sense. My grandma was born in 1923. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm not, like, she was in survival mode. I'm in thriving mode. So what she needed and what she taught me was something about surviving, but I'm actually trying to thrive. So like, you're trying to rewire your brain of those thoughts that are holding you back or help, like, keeping you playing small. And so I'm always a proponent of like, if you can invest in mindset, that's the first thing. And then always I invest in strategy. I don't need you just to be like, oh yeah, Courtney, and like, I did an audit on this and this is what no, babe, I need like, I need a roadmap. And then again, because I'm a doer and an action taker, then I'll put those strategies into place. But I kind of jumped around. So basically, if you're starting, look at people inside and outside, because sometimes inside your industry is good. There's some good people inside of our industry that drop knowledge on the daily. I mean, message like, bam, why not? Why wouldn't you join that? But like, I would look at different things. Also, what it is that you're needing specifically. Is it marketing support? Is it growth? Is it profitability scaling? Is it hiring? Because I kind of buy in silos. Like when I was hiring my first person, I hired Tatiana. Like, I needed a specific thing. My focus was on hiring. So I got in her Grindaholic, the program. Oh, mindset. I did this. I don't really try to find one person that does hiring, firing, strategy, mindset, sales. I'm like, because really, you're only really good at one thing. I mean, there are people that are good at several things, but great at one thing. You really have a core of what it is you do. And then there might be like little sub of that. But I want the best of the best. So I want you to stay where you're really great at, and then let me go over here to someone else who's really great at this, instead of you trying to be everything, if that makes sense. But like, business coaches in a silo, like overall business coach, they might have a little, everything. So I look at that differently. But the way I hire is based on like the needs that I'm having right now in my business, or like where I'm at and where I want to go and who I believe can help me get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
there's something so like interesting that I think so many people probably don't acknowledge or act on about what you said in terms of the most important thing being mindset, because it literally is the foundation for anything else to be successful. Like, we can throw money at, do all the courses for, make all the decisions in any other area of our business, and not seeing the growth or the success that we want. And so often it is us as holding us back or creating these like barriers to not move forward, to not see that like jump in that area. And I just remember, because my, first career being an athlete, there's this quote, I have no idea who said it, but I remember it so profoundly kind of like shifted how I approached training. It was something to the effect of, I'm probably gonna screw it up, but like, success is 99% physical and 1% mental, but it's the 1% mental that determines the 99% physical. So the way that you think, the way that you approach, the things that you believe, those are the things that are going to determine how well you're able to implement on the other stuff. And so if you don't have that right now, if you feel that like you could possibly be the thing that is holding you back from really seeing kind of the success you want, I would definitely encourage, like, pay attention to that. Get your mind right. Get your money stories right. Get your like limiting beliefs right. Get your like, I deserve this, I am worthy, right? Like, all of those things are so important, because it really isn't about like, I'm better or you're better. It's really about who believes it's possible for them, and then takes the action after that to make it possible.
Exactly. And that ties into, I mean, when we first started, you were like, why do you think advisors, come in the industry and feel like did it because of mindset, because they haven't broke through those limitations? Like
Mhm.
it's just when people like, I couldn't charge that. Oh, no way I could do a retainer. Oh gosh, you do that. Like that's all that's mindset right there.
It really is. It really is. And don't think like I'm here talking about it like I'm some like
Pro.
like I've
A
made it.
guru. You're a guru.
But no, even just this year when I was like going over my fees, and it's like there's something there where I like want to have them and where I think I should have them. And I know it is a
Yeah.
limiting like belief that I have inside myself that like, why do I not think that I can attract clients willing to pay this? Why do I not think that like this is I know other people charging that much. I don't look at them and be like, yep, they're just so much better than me. But there's something there, right? So it's
Yeah.
just like an acknowledgement that like we all probably have some things there that is the bigger problem. Not to say that you don't need to, hire somebody for like the actual like
Right. Thanks.
tangible things, but the mindset is such a big deal, and it really is like the game changer, I think.
Definitely.
So another thing that I think is very specific to you that I want you to just talk on like really quickly, this idea of like innovating, like being able to experiment, ideate, innovate within our business, and you being able to like look at the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of just kind of, I think, who you are. But
Yeah.
how can you kind of explain it in a way where other people can be like, oh, that could be me too, or I could do more of that?
Yeah. I know it's kind of hard when that's like I'm always looking at something like, oh, I'm always saying like it's even my husband's like, Courtney, no, we're just doing this. Like, I don't need you to kind of fit like I could go, my father-in-law was like, she about to have you start a business. Like I could talk to anybody and be like, oh, so you do graphic design. Have you ever thought about this? Like everybody doesn't want to take their business to $1 million level, like 7 big. Like my mind just automatically goes to like, oh, you do this. Have you thought about expanding that? Like I think that's just something that, like you said, that's kind of who I am. But I believe with the innovation part is like it's allowing yourself to be creative and think. And so here's the thing: in order to do this, you first have to step outside of your business. I know some people say their business is their baby. My business is not my baby. I don't have kids, but even if I did, my baby would be more important than my business. You know what I mean? Like it's not my baby. My thing is I kind of take myself out of it and I look at it as like I tell people all the time, like, oh, if I die tomorrow, you could hop in and run my business. Like
Right.
people think it's the them that make their business successful. No. I mean, I know you want it to be you, but like what I'm saying is when you can step outside of that and look at it for what it actually is, I feel like that's how you can be innovative and that's how you can incorporate things because then I'm always looking at, okay, how can we do this better? Or what if we took this off? Or like I was talking to Leticia on my team the other day and I was like, man, this AI is a game changer. What if we could have a chatbot on our website that crawled all of our content? I have over 300 blogs, like, and pulled out specific thing and created content, like, like things that are just like, girl, don't start today. It's Monday. Like, like let us flow into the day. So like I'm always looking at even my offer. So when I started my business, when I obviously started with destination weddings for those that don't know, and like groups and bigger, because I was thinking like, no way I can do one person's trip and make $200. I was like, hold on, we got to flip that. I'm already like, how do we double, triple, quadruple? And at the time I was thinking that's the way, like, it's gotta be groups, it's gotta be destination wedding. So like looking at developing the offerings and like what is working, what's not, where I can make more of an impact, where I can make more money, like looking at the gaps, that's allowed me to be more innovative. And so then also it's me scheduling time outside of my business where I'm not scheduling all these different calls all day or like doing all the work all day, to where I can just take a day with nothing. And I'm literally in one of them notebooks that I told you I have 100 ideas of looking and writing and creating, like, would this work? And kind of even with the business head of like, man, this would be nice if we could do this. And what if we partner here and do that? Like, it's just you being in that. I feel like that's that CEO, that's that visionary. Like,
Yeah.
if we can get to, I think that's the next level of an entrepreneur, like you CEO in your business, to actually like, it goes back to those CEO level tasks.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how I've carved out time to like really think of new ways of doing things, or like trying and failing, or like testing different things out, because what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like that. Why not?
Mm.
But the thing is, if you're in your day to day and you're grinding and you got to do like, how do you have time to even be creative or strategic or think about? It's kind of like the dreaming big. You can't dream when you're in survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be thriving. You have to have things put in place, whether it's a team, systems, book of business. Like, I feel like there's levels to it. So then when you get to that point, that's what you're spending your time on, because there could be something that's even bigger than what I think I'm doing now that is in one of these notebooks or one of these things that like really do it. Because I think as an entrepreneur, like they say your first probably 1, 2, 3, 4 businesses fail, or it doesn't hit. It's kind of like Mark Cuban. Like, if you're a true entrepreneur, and I'm not saying everybody wants to be entrepreneur, you're just a travel entrepreneur. You're like, I love this, I can do this, and then retire. But I think that those who are looking for more, like expanding and like, you know, you kind of like, this might not be it. Like when you started the industry, did you think, oh, I'm going to be co-hosting with Masters in Travel? You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, I'm
Yep.
playing trip. Like I think it's an expansion and growth as a person. I think
Yeah.
that's where the innovation comes
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
So if you have that entrepreneurial mindset and you're thinking about what's next and how you're growing through your business, that's how it's easy to shift to like, girl, I cannot be your destination wedding girl anymore. Like that was me, but that is no longer me too much longer. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Yeah.
that's my team, and yes, come on, destination wedding, but like that is not Courtney. Like I cannot like.
And that is okay. It's actually a really
Exactly.
beautiful thing to be able to do that and to be able to give yourself permission to kind of grow and evolve, like, because that's a true you. It is a true like definition of who you are now and what you want today. And you're following that and like letting that guide and lead you, which is really, really cool. So I love that. I love that. Okay. I just want people to be clear, because I feel like, so we talked about it briefly, how the Biz Huddle kind of like came about and what the goal is. And so just make sure, because I feel super excited about it. And I'm excited, like I said, to be in the room, to hear, to grow, to like do some things that are on my list that I know I just need like that kick in the pants and that like time and space to focus on.
Right.
Who's the Biz Huddle for? How is it going to equip them with the tools and support they need to thrive? And what do they need to know about it?
Yeah. So it's for growth-minded advisors and agency owners. We're limiting it to 50 because we really want to curate the space of kind of like-minded. We don't want to go deep, so we can't really have, a million people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who it's for. We want full-time. We don't want this to be a side hustle. We need you. This isn't for newbies. Again, it's that sweet spot. There are a lot of things for people just entering the business, but we don't want to get there and have to be teaching travel and what a DMC and all that. Like you're kind of past that stage. You're looking to really take things to the next level. So that's kind of who the Business Huddle is for. What you're going to learn are the tools that you're going to get to kind of move your business forward. The focus and the content areas are all around, your finance and cash flow, your marketing and operations, tech and innovations, operational efficiency, and like from workflows to SOPs to all the things with hiring, firing, and onboarding, those type of things. But we're actually going to give you strategy, plans, implementation. Like this is not where you come. There's no keynotes and no fluff. You're not going to come and get a hurrah and a podcast and, a book signing. There's going to be no suppliers. So you're not like speed dating and going about like the science fair in the gym. Like we're not doing it. It's literally like bring your laptops, your notepads, whatever you do with your business, because people are actually going to be walking you through. Okay, make sure you go in here. Like, let's look at this. Pull up your this. What is it saying now? Like tools and strategy. I tell speakers, don't come with no high level overviews. I'm embarrassed y'all. Like I told them, like we wanted to dive deep. They know me. I'm like, hey, I'm talking about we need to get into the weeds because that's where the magic happens. And then obviously with that group in the room of, workshopping and roundtabling and conversations, it makes it even better. So like what you need to know obviously is the date because we didn't say that. July 22nd through the 25th this year in 2025. The first one will be held at the Thompson, Austin. So yes, Austin, Texas. We'll have a little fun there. But July 22nd through the 25th in Austin, Texas. And you can apply online. It's the business. I was about to say business. Look at me. I'm off. Biz. Remember, this is the Biz Huddle. So THEBIZ huddle.com. And so it is an application. So it's not like one of those things where you're like, oh, girl, I'm coming. We want to make sure the right people are in the room and like we're talking to the same group of people because you don't want 5 people over here that are like, what's a Google business profile? And then 10 over here that's like, we're done with our Google. And then 10 over here is like, what's AI? Like we want to kind of have similar level of business. So that's why we're doing the application. And yes, it does cost. That's the one thing that I want you to know. It kind of goes back to like, you're investing in yourself. Suppliers are not about to wine and dine you, take you out to eat and do pool parties. This is literally about you and your business. So there is a cost to it. No, it's not going to my bank account to get rich. I'm letting you know, like, putting on this event, we're hiring, meaning we're paying these speakers and these coaches and consultants to come in and to put on this event. So it's literally like you having that skin in the game to be a part of it because it's for us, by us, and like there's no big back or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think it's great. I think that there's such a need in the industry for events and things like this because, like I said, it really is what we all need to be better at the business side of our businesses.
Mhm.
And so I'm excited to go. I'm excited to kind of like share it with other advisors who it's right for, because I think that this is going to be the way where you start to really, really decide, hey, like I'm in, like I am committed to figuring out like what's going to help me get to that next level and to do the work. So I'm excited and I like applaud you for having kind of like the idea, but also the courage to kind of be like, yeah, you know what? It's not happening. So I'll make it happen.
Yeah.
That's really
I'm like,
what it is.
I'll just take this on. Yeah. My
I'd
husband's
stay
like,
for forever and be like, I wish there should be, this would be great. And that's all good, fine and good. But then there's something else to be said for being like, you know what? I do believe that. So I'm going to be the one that makes it happen. So I applaud you for that. Thank you
thank
for
you.
sharing kind of all of your wisdom and your perspective today on the podcast. I think that hopefully people just got a different perspective to consider and a green light, if you will, to kind of take their dreams and really make them bigger and make them specific enough to where like they know now, hey, here's my vision and I'm committed to it. And I might not know right now today how it is I'm going to get there, but that's okay. Like that doesn't have to be.
Yeah. It's the fact that now you know what you
Exactly.
want more. That's the first part. That's the first
I
step.
want us all to want more. I feel like that's the beauty of like the rising tide lifts all boats, right? Like when we can become like true, like an industry that is filled with like successful, driven, like committed, confident people, like we're going to make, waves and people are going to be like, wow, like look at these badasses out
Exactly.
here doing things, making money, all the things. So that's what I want to see. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being with us and I appreciate your insight and I can't wait to see you in Austin, Texas.
Yes, thanks.